Good morning. Welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Don Preziosi, and I am your Sunday associate this morning. We are a spiritually alive, radically inclusive, and justice-centered community. We are so glad you are here with us, whether you're in this room with me or on our website, YouTube, or Facebook. Welcome. I have a few announcements this morning. Next week, Sunday, March 6th, we'll host an Odyssey presentation featuring Marcia Ivan's life story, poetry, and wisdom. Join us in our sanctuary or on Zoom at 1 p.m. We'll provide refreshments between the second service and the Odyssey presentation. Parents of children in grades 1 and 2 and 4 and 5 are invited to sign up for Our Whole Lives, or as we refer to it as OWL, which presents honest, accurate information about sexuality. OWL dismantles stereotypes and assumptions, builds self-acceptance and self-esteem, fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and has the potential to save lives. Classes are taught by trained facilitators starting on March 13th. There is a parent meeting after the service on March 6th. Go to muuf.org/OWL for more information. If you have questions, contact Nick Walwork at dre@muuf.org. Today at 1 p.m., all of our members are encouraged to attend the Zoom-only congregational meeting to vote on our strategic plan. The link was sent out to every member via Constant Contact and via Realm and via our Facebook page events. We need a quorum, so please attend if you can. It will be a short meeting of maybe 30 to 40 minutes at most. We hope you can make it. Also, apparently we need vote counters for the individual breakout rooms. So I believe Nan Perigo is the person to see about that, or perhaps if you're online early enough, you can volunteer. Finally, our collection today is split 50% between our fellowship's general fund and 50% to the Morris County Interfaith Food Pantry. We invite you to give generously via text, via our website, www.muuf.org, or via cash in our basket, or checks in the basket, or you can mail checks in as well. You can run here, drive here, however you'd like. Once again, welcome to newcomers and long-timers alike. We are so glad you are here.
So I want to invite everyone to join us in our chalice lighting. The words are in your order of service. And I have a question. Is there a child that wants to help me light the chalice today? Anyone like to light chalices? Great, come forward. Yay. Wonderful. So, as we're sharing our chalice lighting, I invite you to light our flaming chalice. Here you go. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And will you recite with me our covenant? And you can help me up here, okay? Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now, who up here is a really good reader? Because I want to invite you to help with the responsive reading. Don's going to read one side. You want to keep helping me as my reader today? That'd be great. So we're going to stand over here, and I want to invite everyone who's here to look at the words on the screen behind me, or to open your hymnal to number 444. And these words are by Ken Patton, who was a poet. And it's about, oh, I forgot to take this off for a second. It's about us as a community, and it's about us beginning to envision what's next. And now, will you help me read? Let's see, you hold the book, and what's going to happen is Don is going to read with the folks on this side of the room, the top line, and then you're going to read the italicized line. And let me just move my microphone. Here we go, and we're going to share it with others, okay?
This house is the ingathering of nature and human nature.
Wonderful. And then Don?
It is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle.
It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person.
It offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring, both in times of security and danger, the full and undivided conflict of opinion.
It is a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers.
It is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks.
It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of growth and progress.
This house is a cradle of our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor.
Perfect. Thank you so much, all my helpers up here. And now we're going to all sing together our next song. And then Nick is going to share a time for all ages. And Nick, do you want the children up here or? Yeah. Great. Well, you guys can stay up here with me while we're singing, or you can sit and wait up here on the steps. This is a house for all, and this is a chancel for all, as they say. And Stearns will lead us.
And a song for all, number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. If you're in the room, I invite you to hum behind your mask, and if you're at home, sing with gusto. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling hand pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful visions comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Alright, let's all sit around here. I'm going to sit on the stairs, and you're going to sit with me. So, you guys should sit on the ground too, so you can see me, alright? Or you can sit on the stairs, whatever. I get it. I got some teachers offering me some suggestions here. Anyone going to sit on the floor, or am I going to talk to the chair? You can call me Clint Eastwood, right? Alright, so, I have a question for you all. Seriously, come over here. We're going to normalize sit on the floor. Excellent. Okay. Do I need to get some sit-upons? Would that be helpful for you? All right. I have two questions for you. The first one is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Who wants to tell me what they want to be when they grow up? What do you want to be? A puppy trainer. All right. Right here at the Seeing Eye, right? You can go talk to Brooke. What do you want to be when you grow up?
A scientist.
A scientist. All right. Good, good. What about you?
A farmer.
A farmer. Harper, what do you want to be? A school counselor. Ah, very. What do you want to be?
A
Scientist?
vet.
A vet? Okay. Explorer? What are you going to explore? New what? New animals. Okay.
Home renovator and designer.
Home renovator and designer. Watch a lot of HGTV in the pandemic. All right. Me too. It's not all you cracked up to be. See my basement. What's up? Detective, okay. All right, so here, but now I got a second question for you. Who do you want to be when you grow up? Who do you want to be when you grow up? What kind of person do you want to be when you grow up? It's a little harder, right?
Yeah. I guess nobody wants to be a bad person.
Nobody wants to be a bad person, so a good person would be a good start, all right? What?
Be a good person.
Be a good person? What are some things you want to do as a good person? Yes?
Help others.
Help others, okay.
I was going to say be kind to others.
Be kind to others?
Maybe
You want to be a policeman? Okay.
a policeman.
What's up? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be when you grow up? How do you want to help others? You don't know? All right, well, it's okay that you guys don't know. Because one of the things that we do here at the fellowship, especially in children and youth RE, is hopefully, the goal is to teach you how to be good people. And so today, after the services, the grown-ups are going to vote on a complicated document that says what we want to do when we grow up as a church, as a fellowship, right? And one of the things that I think is super important, that we're going to recommit to making sure that we help you guys, and here's the secret, also the adults, grow up to be good people, who help people, who do all the things that you do, and new things as well that we aren't even thinking about right now, right? So that's what we do in RE, is hopefully teach you guys to be good and just and loving people. So teachers, that's your job. Adults, that's your job. Parents, it's your kids, it's your job to learn. All right? Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go in an orderly fashion down the center aisle, out the doors, into the Great Hall. But first, we're going to let your teachers go. And I'm going to let everyone know that we are collecting our offering now, which is being split between the fellowship and the Interfaith Food Pantry. A good way for us to be good to people is to help people with food. And Stern's going to start playing music. And once Stern starts with the music, we'll go. Okay?
Nope, that's fine. The offering. He introduced the offering.
Great. All right. All right, let's go.
I have a poem to offer you this morning called Liminality by Carrie Newcomer, who is a singer, songwriter, and a poet. So much of what we know lives just below the surface. Half of a tree spreads out beneath our feet, living simultaneously in two worlds, each half informing and nurturing the whole. A tree is either and neither, but mostly both. I am drawn to liminal spaces, the half-tamed and unruly patch where the forest gives way and my little garden begins, where water, air, and light overlap, becoming mist on the morning pond. I like to sit on my porch steps, barn jacket and boots, in the last long exhale of the day, when bats and birds loop in and out, one rising to work, one readying for sleep. And although the full moon calls the currents, and the dark moon reminds me that my best language has always emerged out of silence, it is in the waxing and waning where I most often live, neither here nor there, but simply on the way. There are endings and beginnings, one emerging out of the other, but most days I travel in an ever-present and curious now. And betwixt and between, that is almost, but not quite, the beautiful, but not yet. I've been learning to live with what is, more patient with the process, to love what is becoming, and the questions that keep returning. I am learning to trust the horizon that I walk toward is an orientation, not a destination. and that I will keep catching glimpses of something great and luminous out of the corner of my eye. I am learning to live where losses hold fast and grief lets loose and unravels, where a new kind of knowing can pick up the thread, where I can slide palms with paradox and nod at the dawn as the shadows pull back and spirit meets bone. We haven't had any milestones cards come forward this morning, but we did share a very important milestone last week, and I wanted to at least acknowledge that it is here with us in this space. Ilya Evans, a beloved member and young adult of our congregation, was driving on a scooter and was struck by a car. And he is in the hospital. And if you've been following on caringbridge.org, you will find out that there has been no change. And Ilya's circumstance remains very grave. I've been on the phone with Carolyn Evans and Bob Evans this week, and I want you to know the incredible difference that you, surrounding them with your love and your prayers, continues to make. So I invite you to do that, to continue to be present in all the ways that you can be, and let us hold Ilya in our hearts. May he be surrounded by compassionate and loving care. May he be surrounded by song. And may Bob and Carolyn be surrounded by love. And of course, we've all had a major global milestone this week as Russia has invaded Ukraine. I've invited Don to share a prayer that comes from the Ukrainian tradition. He'll share a bit about it, and then we're going to light some candles together. Don.
Prayer for Ukraine is a patriotic Ukrainian hymn and anthem. The text was written by Alexandra Konitsky, and the music was composed by Mykola Lysenko, published in 1885, first with a children's choir in mind. The song became the regular closing hymn in services of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, and other churches. It also closes city council meetings and is sung on anniversaries of Ukraine's independence and other celebrations and events. Last night, the Ukrainian chorus Dunka of New York performed the hymn in the cold open of Saturday Night Live, standing behind a table of candles that spelled Kyiv, Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. The following is a literary translation by Dmytro Shostak. Lord, O the great and almighty, protect our beloved Ukraine. Bless her with freedom and light of your holy rays. With learning and knowledge enlighten us, your children small, in love pure and everlasting, let us, O Lord, grow. We pray, O Lord Almighty, protect our beloved Ukraine. Grant our people and country all of your kindness and grace. Bless us with freedom, bless us with wisdom, guide into kind world. Bless us, O Lord, with good fortune forever and evermore. Now please join by humming, I guess that is, Stearns, in hymn.
First, we're going to light it.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I forgot.
But then we will be joining and humming. Am I on? Yes, okay, great. So we're going to light 3 candles this morning in honor of Ukraine. And we draw our light from our flaming chalice, which was a symbol born of the service that Unitarians were engaged in during the Second World War to rescue children and adults from the scourge of war and fascism. Will you hold all of Ukraine in your heart in this prayerful time now? We pray for the people of Ukraine. We pray for their strength, and we pray for their wisdom and their loving kindness to prevail. We are a people who extol the importance of peace by peaceful means, and yet we are also a people that recognize the importance and right of those who are oppressed to defend themselves. We pray for all the families that may have lost loved ones this week, for the elders and the youth and all the ages in between who are making the challenging decision to take up arms to defend their capital and their homeland. We pray that their words shall also prevail, and that global allies around the world shall show up for and with them, and that indeed there will be a possibility to negotiate peace. Our second candle is for democracy. We pray for the democracy of Ukraine. We pray for their enlarging liberty and their steadfast commitment to a government for the people, of the people, and created by the people. We pray also with this candle for all democracies around this globe. With great humility, we know that democracy is an ideal and a system that must be continuously tended. That it is always possible to turn into the shadows of autocracy, to turn into the shadows of tyranny, of dictatorship. We vow that we will support Ukraine in the ways that we are able. Yes, we pray for the light of democracy to prevail. And finally, a candle for peace. We pray as a religious people to have a God's eye view of the world. For all of us are part of one great human family, and the loss of every life must be counted. May we do our best to learn how to move with creativity, compassion, and courage, to be a people who wage peace in word and in deed. All these things and so many more are our prayers this morning. And now will you join in humming along, and Stearns will lead us, just as long as I have breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though in pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
And I'll share that next week in our service, we are going to explore together the Unitarian Universalist understandings. There's not one understanding about war and peace, and we'll hold one another and figure out how we might be of service as the events unfold this week. Right now, like maybe some others in this room who have seen the same story, I'm holding the image of the grandmother who handed sunflower seeds to a Russian soldier and asked that he put them in his pocket so that flowers might come from the soil, honoring that death is a cost of this war, and honoring her feisty resistance. Today we have another important milestone in the life of our fellowship. We are going to be in a meeting together, those of us who are members, but this includes the newcomers amongst you too after the vote. We will be voting on a new strategic plan, setting a course for what's next. We are moving through a threshold time in the life of our fellowship and in the religious landscape more broadly. It is a liminal time, an in-between time. There is who we were before the pandemic and who we are becoming that we don't quite yet fully understand. We were already a very regional congregation, drawing members from around Morris County and a bit beyond. And I'll share with you that not all the congregations located in Morristown or Morris Township have such a regional draw. And now, with the advent of multi-platform worship and multi-platform ministries, we are reaching out even further. Today, there are people in our sanctuary and in our virtual sanctuary. We are expanding the doorways. You can join us from Morristown or Massachusetts, from New Jersey or Japan, on Sunday morning or Wednesday night, if you wish. We will also be breaking ground on our new edition next year in 2023, which will greatly expand our accessibility in other ways. The edition includes the Al and Minda Chu Family Fellowship Hall, the Erhane Wilson Family Welcome Gallery, the outdoor courtyard, and 2 classrooms, the modern kitchen or hospitality center, and multiple bathroom facilities. These are built with people along the mobility continuum in mind. And we've also had a dynamic conversation about the gender continuum. We changed our designs of our bathroom facilities following a series that people took together around trans inclusion. We are expanding the definition of who we are and who we are becoming in so many ways. All of this is rooted in the strategic planning that we did in the last decade from 2010 and beyond, and the strategic planning that we've been doing together so far in this decade of 2020 and moving forward. The meeting is at 1 o'clock today on Zoom, and that 22 to 27 strategic plan will help frame our collective work. Whether you are a member or a newcomer, please know that while voting is a privilege of membership and open to anyone who wants to join the fellowship, you can make a meeting with me. We can have an appointment for you to sign the membership book. But this plan will need all of us, members and friends, long-timers and newcomers alike, to continue to dream and fulfill our plans. It is our collective time, talent, and treasure that will help us to move through this threshold moment to what we are seeing in the mist on the horizon. On a day like today, it can be helpful to remember that there was a time before we even existed, and to draw strength from the story of our founders who saw a future for Unitarian Universalism in Morris County when there was no such community. Here is their story, and also in the context of a wider denominational story. Nearly 75 years ago, in 1948, the Unitarian Universalist Association embarked on a daring and unusual project for a religion in order to help spread the gospel, that is to say, the good news of liberal religion. The project was called the Fellowship Movement, and it's where our name, the Morristown UU Fellowship, comes from. As with much of U.S. history, the story is somewhat linked to the advent of baby boomers and the surrounding events going on in our country. The baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964, and at that time, the population of Unitarian Universalists was moving away from the Northeast to the South, the West, and the Midwest. And for Unitarian Universalism, our headquarters is Boston, so even New Jersey is the South even though we might not think of ourselves that way. The population had gained greater access to a college education, and with exposure to new ideas came more liberal attitudes about the world's religions and other sources of wisdom, like the sciences and humanities from which we draw. The explosion of numbers of children meant that many parents were interested in a religious education program that fit with their changing attitudes about religion. The American Unitarian Association, later the Unitarian Universalist Association, hoped to figure out a way to share our faith in these places of burgeoning populations. And at the same time, Unitarians who were relocating were interested in finding a religious organization in their new hometown. The challenge was that there were very limited resources to make this happen. The traditional way of starting a new congregation was for the headquarters to heavily subsidize the congregations, beginning by helping to pay for the salary of the minister and other programs. This limited new starts to locations where they were assured a promising return on their significant investment, and also limited new congregations to a very small number each year. And at that time, there was a low tide in terms of numbers of clergy, which limited the possibilities. But 3 creative and out-of-the-box individuals came up with a new way to start a congregation. Frederick May Elliott, the president of the American Unitarian Association, Reverend Lon Ray Call, an AUA minister at large, and Monroe Husbands, the only person to serve as director of the fellowship program, proposed something completely new. Monroe Husbands was a lay leader. Wherever there were 10 or more religious liberals living in a community where there wasn't a Unitarian church, at the time they were called churches, they could become a Unitarian fellowship when they expressed agreement with the principles and the purposes of the association and paid dues. In exchange, they'd be allowed to send a delegate to our General Assembly and would gain support from that fellowship office. This opened up the possibility of our liberal way of doing religion in small towns, suburbs, and more distant locations than was previously possible. And it did more than that. It actually changed the way that we do religion. It turned it into a much greater shared ministry. The hope was that these fellowships would grow and ultimately be able to launch religious education programs, maybe purchase a building, and then possibly call a minister and hire other staff. Many of the fellowships never quite realized the dream, and to this day remain small. Many closed. Many, however, did realize this dream and are some of the most thriving communities in our entire association. Just imagine how many religions would trust that a small group of lay leaders without a trained minister could launch a congregation to meet the spiritual, ethical, educational, and community needs of a growing congregation. Well, the fact that many did not survive proves that it's not an easy task. And the fact that many did proves that it is most definitely possible. I may be an ordained minister, but I have not cornered the market on ministry here. This is a shared ministry and requires many lay leaders and other staff as well. When enough people had been contacted, Monroe Husbands, kind of like the Johnny Appleseed of Unitarian Universalism, came here for a public meeting where 60 people showed up in a bank on South Street. He explained a bit about our faith tradition and how to begin a congregation. At the end of the meeting, Monroe Husbands asked for 6 volunteers to draft tentative bylaws and to become the first steering committee. And that steering committee found our first place of meeting, which was the YMCA downtown near the courthouse. The Morristown Unitarian Fellowship, as we were called, opened soon with the Sunday school classes in the morning and worship services in the evening. Isn't that interesting, Nick? Yeah, it was flipped. And they were conducted by lay leaders or guest ministers or guest lecturers. From the get-go, we made 2 important decisions. Many of the fellowships that didn't survive met in a private place, like someone's home, and remained very insular. The fellowships that thrived were very intentional about creating religious education classes for children and were interested in tending the next generation. And this congregation didn't wait and set that up from the very first day. A couple of years into our history, one member, does anyone know the name? This is a good test too for long-timers. Yes, Joe, who is it? That's right, Charlene Catula saw a mansion on sale on Normandy Heights Road and gave a down payment on the spot without asking anyone. We don't do things, newcomers, we don't do things like that. If you have a good idea, come and talk to the folks about it. But I appreciate her spirit. So Charlene Catula gave a down payment, and she was confident that she had found the right home for us to grow into. As with many moments in our history, there was some debate about whether it was a good idea. But 27, imagine that, 27 individuals voted to go for it and dedicated this as our spiritual home. I applaud the courage that it took to take on a mortgage, to take care of one another and also this physical space, and to see on the horizon that there were more people who would yearn for what we had to offer. At that time, we held services in the terrace room, which would be the case for many years to come. In 1962, the congregation reached 100 members and decided to call its first minister, the Reverend Chalice. Whether or not to call a minister was also the subject of some debate, but again, the congregation boldly moved down that path of working towards their dream. In an old article I found, I read that the congregation initially intended to change its name to a church when it reached 100, but that had become part of our core identity. And I think for many, it was so associated, the word church, with Christianity that we wanted to continue to have an open door that was more inclusive than that word implied. And fellowship linked us to a legacy of strong lay leaders within our movement. The fellowship movement actually planted somewhere between 600 and 800 communities between 1948 and 1967. And about 300, maybe a little over 300, survive to this day. And they account for 30% of the congregations in the Unitarian Universalist Association, and also about 30% of the members. The Morristown UU Fellowship has made its imprint on both the UUA and on Morris County. We have grown in spirit. We are a community that has served thousands of children, youth, and adults longing for diverse spiritual experiences. Every month we see it. And it has been this way from the beginning. Interfaith families, people who follow multiple spiritual paths, people who assert that human reason must be centered alongside faith, and the growing number of people who claim identities like spiritual but not religious.
We have offered religious education classes, worships, and spiritual practices. We have been here through joyful and harrowing times, showing up for and with one another, creating opportunities for resilience, for renewal, and for inspiration. We have grown in impact. We have been partners with Morristown and Township, where we are located, and the wider community and county on the pressing matters of justice and liberation. Our second minister, Clark Olson, was chair of the advisory council to the Morris School District as they sought to integrate the schools. Stephen Wiley, one of the first to join our fellowship, was a lawyer who advocated for integration in the landmark case that happened here. And many of our lay leaders were the parents who showed up to say, yes, separate is not equal. We must do better. We have been partners with the Gay Activist Alliance, who started meeting here nearly 50 years ago in 1972, working together for a Morris County and a Unitarian Universalism that is truly open and inclusive of the LGBTQIA+ community. The first commitment ceremonies. And during my time here, some of the first legal civil unions and then same-gender marriages have happened right here in this room on that holy ground. We have been partners with other faith institutions in launching many of the nonprofits addressing homelessness and hunger, such as Homeless Solutions and the Community Soup Kitchen and Family Promise. This is not an exhaustive list today, so I'm not going to name every group. We have partnered with organizations like Neighborhood House and Wind of the Spirit to ensure that the waves of immigrants who make up our county, we are a county that was created by waves of immigrants, that all are received with dignity and with the support that they need to thrive. And we have grown as a community. We are now over 300 members, one of the largest fellowships in the UUA, although there are a couple, even with over 500 members. About half of our fellowships have 100 members or less, and about half are over 100. The ones over 100 average in about the 220s, 230s. As we have welcomed new people, we have planted many, many small group opportunities to get to know each other more deeply. The women's circles, the men's circles, the covenant circles, the parents' circles, the so many spiritual practice groups, the midweek renewal services, so many ways that we have gotten to know one another intimately. And I'll just name, I know the women's circle that Carolyn Evans participates in has surrounded her. Bless those relationships. And our footprint continues to grow. The sanctuary was added in 1969, additional classrooms in the 80s, and recently all the outdoor play spaces and gathering spaces and the expanded parking lot. What is next? Well, I hope that we pass the strategic plan today and move towards what building spirit, community, and impact means for tomorrow, even as that horizon is somewhat misty in this shifting landscape. There are things we can see and know from here. And these are the 6 areas that we are imagining around. Expanding community and congregational involvement, enhancing and expanding socially responsible activities and service, improving organization systems, strengthening and expanding our lifespan learning program, creating effective outreach and publicity, and improving the financial health and physical home of this congregation. And here are just a few of the ways that we are imagining those unfolding. One, since the very first week I walked through this building, I think I might have had a near miss from one of the tiles of the roof of the mansion. And everyone, it feels like, who was part of the congregation testified to me that even though I was a brand new minister, if I didn't figure out with you all how to address the roof, it just might fall in our heads by the end of the first year. Well, we didn't get to address it then, but guess what? It is the next thing on the agenda in terms of our building plans. Supply chains willing, it might be the way to put it. It is likely we will be fixing our roof and putting on a whole new roof within a matter of months, really, by September, hopefully. The addition that I already shared about, which is about being greener, more accessible, and more inclusive. We might be exploring engaging with the welcoming congregation process. Again, we became a welcoming congregation in 1990, one of the first in the country. We were on the leading edge of that, but what it means to be inclusive of the LGBTQIA plus community today is very different than in 1990. So we have work to do, and that is an opportunity that we might live into together. Again, equipping ourselves to be a multi-platform community. And how about this one? Congregations have oriented themselves around the boomers, so important, but now we need to orient ourselves around millennials and Gen Z, how they will find us and what they want. Yes, my fellow Gen Xers, I did jump over us. I know. It's just the truth. But we do care about what Gen Xers want, but it's those larger cohorts we're exploring. And the millennials are aging, and so we really need to, did I say that out loud? Don't say that? The millennials don't want to know. Okay, the millennials they are the pulse of the now and the future. And also, Gen Z too. A publicity campaign to open our doors for what would that look like today? Adapting our property and our social justice initiatives to address climate justice and to move from just liberalism to a true commitment to liberation. We've been talking about this, but what does that really call us towards in the future? And yes, helping connect new people to leadership and shaping the ministries of caring, justice, worship, religious education, community building. Our congregation belongs to all of you, not just the leaders of today. It is the congregation of the newcomers and the leaders of tomorrow as well. George K. Beach asserts, people do not join a covenanted community, rather they constitute it. There is no it without them. And each time new folks join, the whole is literally reconstituted. So remember that what is written in the plan is not a recipe, but rather directions that will take all of us to fulfill and adapt along the way. A couple of years into our last plan, we were identified as a threshold congregation, a community that was capable of new kinds of growth for our faith. Let us then move towards another threshold now together, a threshold made of this shifting time we are living through and made of the dreams that we set before us in our planning. In the end, may all our efforts lead to a Unitarian Universalism thriving in Morris County and beyond. Why? Because our community has the power to heal, to liberate, and to move us forward in the direction of love. May it be so. And will you rise and join in humming? We are so blessed by your voice. Have I said that recently?
You get to hear a lot of it lately.
I know. We love it. We love it. We
Number
love it.
114, Forward Through the Ages. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine, gifts in differing measure, hearts of one accord, manifold the service, one the sure reward. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine. Wider grows the vision, realm of love and light. For it we must labor till our faith is sight. Prophets have proclaimed it, martyrs testified, poets sung its glory, heroes for it died. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine. Not alone we conquer, not alone we fall. In each loss or triumph, lose or triumph fall, bound by God's far purpose in one living whole, move we on together to the shining goal. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine.
So I'm told that I think that in the Christian tradition that has a different title and different words. I still have yet to ever hear that song. I don't even really know what the words. No, I mean I know the title is like Onward Christian Soldiers. We're not going to sing that. I think I know enough that we're not going to sing those words, but I suppose I should look them up.
Can I give another fun fact about that song?
Sure.
Another fun fact, who knows who wrote the music to that song? Arthur Sullivan, of course, Beth knows. Sorry, Paula. It's, Arthur Sullivan of Gilbert and Sullivan, who wrote
What?
Pirates of Penzance and HMS Pinafore and The Mikado and all those lovely operettas that you all know and love.
No way. I'm
Yep.
so glad to know that.
Yep.
There you go. There you go. A little music appreciation in the fellowship this morning. Our closing words are by Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. So let us go forth and dream, and then let us go forth and do the wise planting, so that the fruits of tomorrow shall nourish the generations ahead. Go with peace, go with joy, go knowing you are blessed, and share it in the world.